Hi everyone, I'm Al McKay. Welcome to a new video. We're going to be talking about how to create your side hustle. As creatives, have you ever wanted to make some money on the side? Not in a scammy, sleazy way, but actually leveraging your skills to be able to make some extra change, whether it's $500 a month, $1,000 a month, whatever it might be, so that way you've got a little bit extra that you can do with the spare time that you have, and more importantly, with the skills that you've acquired over your career to do something fun and be able to get paid for it. As creatives, I want us to leverage our skills, the things that we do, to be able to get some extra pocket change. I want us to create our side hustle. I'm going to teach you in this video all the different ways that you can make money on the side as an artist. So you still get your day job, you can still be doing what you do in your career, but be making an extra $500, $1,000 a month, maybe more, doing something that you find fun, fulfilling, and you're passionate about, exploring your art and creative side while also making some money while you're doing it. So let's dive in. Okay, welcome to a new video. So quickly, subscribe to this channel if you find this video informative. I'm going to be doing a lot more on this, a lot more hands-on. So right now I'm going to be talking about different ways you can make money as a creative, but later I'm actually going to go in and actually set these things up. So if I say, how do we sell our 3D printed models online? Then I'm actually going to show you how to create your own store, set everything up, and actually be able to do it. So there's going to be lots of cool stuff coming. So if you get a chance, please subscribe to the channel. Also, if you can share this with others, that would mean the world to me, so that way they can benefit from it as well. So one of the big frustrations a lot of us have is that we want more money. We want to get by in our career, and every time that we want to get a pay bump, we basically have to wait for our next annual review and see if we get a salary increase at our main job. So we wait a year hoping for that increase. Yet we spend a lot of our time, in our spare time, going home unfulfilled and dabbling around in ZBrush or Photoshop or whatever it is, doing something creative because we're not being challenged as much at work. And I've always found that typically we escape and we go home, we do our personal work to actually do the thing that we find to be most fulfilling in the first place. So what I want to talk about is ways to leverage that creative outlet. So in other words, you're doing something you're passionate about, but this is a chance to actually turn that into a small business, one that hopefully you can automatically run and be able to get some extra pocket money from it as well. So let's just start small. I don't want to say, here's how to make an extra $100,000 a year. It is possible, and everything that I go through here, you definitely could be making $10,000, $100,000 a year, crazy numbers with it. And in future videos, I might get into some of the specifics about how I've built out million-dollar businesses doing that. But in this example, I want to keep this simple and keep it in context. What would you do with an extra $1,000 a month? You could buy some new hardware, some new toys, stuff to mess around with, sideshow collectibles, whatever it might be. Or you could save it with your rainy day fund. So the next time that your boss gets under your skin, you can actually tell them to get lost, knowing that you've got this backup money to kind of keep you secure until the next job comes along. Or it could help you transition your career. Knowing that you've got some extra money means that you've got that to leverage just in case anything went wrong. You could have massive vacations, or you could use it as capital to invest back into your new business. So in other words, if you were getting to 3D printing, this might be a chance for you to actually then buy a better 3D printer or more resin, whatever it might be that you're looking for. Or it might be a better chance to get a better Wacom Cintiq or a more powerful machine. So sometimes what starts out as a hobby can ultimately turn into a career. Something I've talked about a lot is the whole two-train theory. In other words, you might have your initial career, which is going along really well, and you might have your side hustle, that extra thing that you're doing on the side. Bit by bit, that might begin to compound and become more and more successful. And you might look at it eventually and realize that, hey, wait a minute, I'm making more money from this side business than I am in my actual career. This is a good position to be in. This is a good problem to have, because this is a chance for you to decide whether or not to jump onto the next train and make that your primary vehicle. Or you just continue to make that money, but then get paid to do the thing that you enjoy doing full time. Whatever it is, you've got that option later down the line. So I remember about 5 or 6 years ago, I was working at a big studio in LA, and I was working on this big production, and I was very stressed. And so stressed, in fact, I remember texting one of my friends at Weta over in New Zealand. They were working on Apes 2, I think, one of them. And I remember texting him saying, have you ever walked out on a job before? And I personally had never, ever walked out. I've seen so many people quit or just not show up, do the millennial thing, ghosting. But I'd never done that. For me, my reputation, as well as just not leaving people high and dry, was more important to me than anything else. However, the conditions of this place were not good. The project itself was stressful. I felt like puking with so much stress a lot of the time. As I texted my friend, and he ended up calling me right away because he'd never heard me talk like that before, and I was considering, I was in the situation where I was being paid okay money, but I was so stressed, I was so unhappy, and I just wanted this job to end, and there was no end in sight. But more importantly, I just created this additional business, one of many that I've launched over the years. And in a single day, I had made a considerable amount of money. More money than earlier in my career I'd made an entire year. And that week alone, I'd made more money in that week than I'd made in the entire year of me freelancing. So bit by bit, my bank account was blowing up, and I'm there stressed about this job that's not really giving me much money at all. And I'm just wondering, like, what the hell am I doing? For me to get to this place, it was one of many different side hustles that I created, and some of these became automated. There was something that I built, and I didn't have to worry about not for a long time. So it's very tricky when I'm working on something that's so stressful, and I'm making a little bit of money, and there's this other thing that I'm not even having to worry about. I'm not stressed at all. I'm actually enjoying it. I'm excited about, and it's generating more money than I ever dreamt of without me having to do anything. That's the sort of thing that doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it's pretty eye-opening. It makes me reprioritize what's important. I kept at the job, I finished the project, but I took some time off knowing that I had this other side hustle that I could rely on as well. The cool thing is, a lot of what we're going to be doing, we can have that compound over time. So if you were to start selling prints of your illustrations, your matte paintings, your 3D renders, whatever that might be, this is a chance that once you build one, you can start selling it online at different stores, on your own website, and then you build another one, and then you build another one. And some of these might spike and then start to plateau, but you might still get sales consistently on the lower numbers for the rest of your life. So as you get another one, another one, another one, all of these start to compound. And that's where it goes from making $250 a month to $5,000 a month, or whatever it might be. That's one of the key advantages to think about, is that you might be starting out small, but bit by bit, this will grow over time. One of the key things early in my career I did was I would sell assets on Turbosquid and a few other websites. And I would make some good money sometimes, I'd make bad money sometimes, but I was still always making a little bit of money. And having read a lot of books on business and finance specifically, there was a few mindsets, things I wanted to tweak. One of the big things I had done, because at that point I'd never had savings in my life, was I decided that all of the money I would make from my studio, my company at the time, I wouldn't touch that. In other words, I would pay for my electricity and other bills that came along. But beyond that, everything would just go straight into my savings. Now, for fun, for beers, for drinks, for travel, all the things that I would typically consider to be leisure, those would all come from my PayPal account. In other words, whatever money was coming in that month would be what would be the money that I could spend frivolously on whatever I wanted. So sometimes I would get a check from Turbosquid for $500, and that would be all I could spend that month on leisure. But then other times I might get a check for $5,000, and that's when I might decide to take a vacation or buy a new computer or just go and drink and party and hang out with my friends. This was a bit of a mindset shift, but it was one that suddenly, without having to do much, I had a much bigger bank account. My savings were through the roof, more money than I'd ever saved before. I'd made lots of money, but I'd spent lots of money earlier in my career. But this is where I had actually started to actually save money. I instead just relied on my side hustle as the primary way to make my money that I would spend and treat for fun. And on top of that, it was fun. It meant that I had this money that was guilt-free that I could spend on whatever I wanted to. So I want you to think about what are some of the things that you do that you think others might be interested in. And the go-to response for a lot of us is going to be, no one's going to be interested in what I'm into or what I make or what I do. But keep in mind, if you're spending time on this thing in your spare time doing it, then you're bound to have other people interested too. I always say that if the fact that there are people out there getting rich, like rich, off of selling pet rocks, if they can do it, then you can definitely find something cool to do as well. On top of that, it's something where you can look at what's called a blue ocean. In other words, you can look at an area that the ocean isn't full of blood. In other words, there isn't too many sharks already swimming in there. It's a new place that you might be able to jump in and do that no one else is doing yet. I think 3D printing is such a massive area for this. I just interviewed a feature film director who's been 3D printing props for his new film, all from his 3D printers in his house. There's so many different things you can do. I was hanging out with the guys from Sideshow down in Texas who do all the big comic character models, things like that, all 3D printed. There's so many different ways you can leverage this. So what are the habits? What are the things you enjoy doing? It might be illustration, it might be doing matte painting, it might be photography. There are definitely things that you enjoy doing that you could probably leverage as a side hustle and be able to make some money from doing it. The best part is that while you're doing it, if you're working on a new 3D render or a new print, you can show your work in progress stuff on social media. In other words, you can leverage this content to build your brand, build awareness around what you're doing. So that way, by the time you've completed it, you already have an audience who's interested in buying it. My wife just put out a print the other day, her first print that's for sale. And it's really fascinating to see all these people lining up to buy this right away. One of my friends just recently finished a 3D model he spent 1.5 years building of the White House, and it looks phenomenal. And now he's looking at different ways that he can sell that as well. Knowing he's got a higher tier market, he's not trying to sell a $50 product. It's more like a $3,000 product. He's got to find the right clients that he can make that sale from. I want to go through the different types of content that you can make, and this is just scratching the surface. This is more just to kind of give you some ideas of the different ways you could perhaps have a side hustle and what that means to you. It's more to start the conversation, and hopefully one of these ideas resonates with you, but there's definitely more. There's more that we can do with this, but it's a starting point. So one of the key things if you make models would be go on Turbosquid, sell the models there. I'm planning to interview the vice president of Turbosquid, more specifically around success stories that people who've gone and sold models online on Turbosquid, how they've made money and made a living from doing that. Again, sometimes what starts as a side hustle ends up becoming a career where you're making enough money, and there are people on Turbosquid making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year exclusively from just making models. There's other people who are exclusively just making models for Turbosquid as their living. They're not working for other studios, they're just making assets all day long. There's lots of different tiers that you can play with here, but keep that in mind that you can do a lot with it. I also know a lot of people who've gone and made models on Turbosquid or other websites, and a studio has come along and said, we want to buy this model, and then realize it's not quite what they want. So they end up hiring the modeler who made it in the first place to make it exclusively for them, and they've ended up working for them full time. So in other words, this is also a way that while you're making assets and you're making money from it, you can also be scouted or picked up by other studios because of it. So keep that in mind too. But not only is there Turbosquid, there are many others. One thing I'd love for you to do is leave comments as we go through this. Let me know what other side hustles you can think of that maybe I don't mention here. Same thing with websites or resources that maybe I haven't included. When I say Turbosquid, you might recommend a different one that I don't mention. So feel free to leave it. Let's start the conversation. I'd love to know what I'm missing out on, as well as, like I said, I'm just scratching the surface, but this is a chance for you to add in your 2 cents as well about ideas that you have that could make a good side hustle as well. So not only is there Turbosquid, but there's the Unity store if you want to do more real-time assets, things like that. Now with modeling can mean hard surface modeling, organic modeling. You could be doing environments, you could be doing assets, you could be doing weapons, you could be doing so many different things. What if you're not a good modeler? These days with photogrammetry, it's a good chance for you to be able to go out there and be able to make models without needing much work. In other words, having a camera, going around taking pictures from every single angle, you're able to create a detailed enough model that with a bit of cleaning up in ZBrush, you can retopo it and then output it onto Turbosquid and sell those as assets. So this could be a statue, this could be something that maybe you sculpt with clay, this could literally be furniture in your house, or it could be mountains, landscapes, different things like that. One of my good friends climbs a lot of mountains, and he's always up there with his Mavic 2 drone flying it around, creating different photos of the surrounding mountains. And this is something that then he's able to create detailed photorealistic landscapes from that. So all the textures, the modeling, everything comes out of the photos that he takes with the drone when he's at the top of a peak. Again, this is something that you can leverage and use. You look at Quixel, you look at Megascans, there's a lot of different websites starting to pop up that are exclusively selling these, and a lot of studios, a lot of game companies are now picking up these assets to use in their game. So not only is there photogrammetry, but also creating brushes, shaders, and other assets, so ZBrush brushes, things like that that people can use to do all their artwork as well. So rather than creating finished assets, maybe these are more supplemental material that they can use to do a better job on the work that they're doing. So whether it's ZBrush or doing V-Ray shaders, whatever it might be. So typically a good place to sell a lot of these assets is going to be Gumroad and other websites like that. Gumroad's a good one that everyone has because it's organic. It can be found through Gumroad or through Google. But on top of that, it's easy to set up and it's easy for the transactions. That's something to consider, is simply websites like that where you can easily put up a page, make a transaction, and have the money come to you. But at the same time, you can sell for your own website and make 100% of the profit. But of course, at that point, you're more responsible for bringing the traffic to you. So a lot of the time I talk about building your brand and how important that is. And this is exactly what you need to do if you were to sell off of your website. If you want to make 100% of the revenue from your sales, you need to build a personal brand because you need to have an audience who is aware of you, who's aware of the different things that you have for sale, and knows where your website is, so that way they can go and buy from you. If you don't have an audience, then you're going to need to rely on a website that has an audience, like Udemy or Gumroad or all these different ones, that they're able to organically discover your content. Turbosquid being another good one. So what if you're a traditional artist and you sell your prints? So you create your original pieces and then you do reprints of these and sell them online. This is something that you can make a lot of money from. It's a very saturated industry. So obviously if you can paint, a lot of other people can too. But I know plenty of people making hundreds, if not thousands a month from doing this. And definitely people who are making a living exclusively from doing this as well. And of course, it's a good way to get exposure and build your name out there, having professional prints for sale. So there are so many websites, just Google it. I will definitely compile a list at some point of the different ones, but DeviantArt is one that I've personally bought a lot of prints from. That was kind of cool, and there's plenty of other ones as well. So the main thing is that the more we get into this, I'd love to create some videos exclusively around how to set up a shop, how to organize and even negotiate printing costs and building out the whole entire service. Because what would be better is that you focus on doing your art and not be stuck doing all of the shipping and the fulfillment, all the things that you don't want to do. But as you get through it, the good thing is that once you build up one service, you can build up another and another and another. You can have your own website where you make 100% of the revenue, then other websites like DeviantArt that you can have sell your artwork as well. Eventually, you can go onto Amazon and other websites as well and sell the prints on there too. There's other things you can do like embellish your prints, so that way giving it texture, things like that, that will allow you to up the cost a little bit because it feels more like as if it was hand painted. Obviously, you let them know that it's a print that's embellished, not the original, but this is a chance for you to be able to kind of raise the price and the quality a little bit. There's different things you can do. The more pricing options and different scales, different frames, different things that you want to sell allow you to have a different kind of pockets or buckets that you work in. So in other words, you might have the cheaper stuff. I find Etsy tends to be, and I'm not an expert on this, but I am an expert of seeing a lot of friends and other people selling their work on Etsy, for instance. I tend to find that it's more of a lower tier. In other words, people going there are more looking to spend 10, 20 bucks. But going to certain other websites, they might be looking to spend thousands. And again, once you get into this, it might be something where you start popping around to local furnishing stores, places like that, seeing if you can have your stuff sold there as well. Obviously, they're going to mark it up to $5,000, whatever it might be, and you could receive 50% of that. So starting out small, there's lots of leg room, and there's no real ceiling on this. You can continue to expand and do all this because you're printing this stuff out. So in other words, there's no major cost involved other than the frame, the print, and the shipping and fulfillment. Another one is selling courses online. So there's definitely a lot of places you can sell online. Gumroad is a great place if you want to sell them on there. Udemy is another great one as well. Udemy is great because it's going to get a lot of traffic. A lot of people going there wanting to learn different things. So this is a chance for you to host your courses or training DVDs, whatever it might be, on Udemy and be able to get a lot of traffic going to it. In addition, there's 3D printing. And this is, of course, a very new thing, but it's also a very booming industry with a lot of legroom. So getting your models and being able to print them out and be able to sell them to other people, whether it's like a 12-inch model, whatever it might be, this is a chance for you to be able to create really cool characters, buildings, whatever you want to print out, and be able to get others to enjoy these and purchase them from you. I was actually at a Outback Steakhouse of all places, and ended up chatting to a waiter who actually builds out a lot of Marvel and DC weapons and characters, things like that. 3D prints them, sculpts them, does a lot of cool stuff, sells them online, and he's been making a really good living just doing that on top of waiting on the side as well. So there's definitely a lot you can do in here. In terms of selling the stuff, the sky's the limit. You could have an art stall on weekends to do it there, but if you want to automate the stuff, go on eBay, Etsy, even selling your stuff on Amazon. These are all locations and places you can do it too. Just recently I was hanging out with a couple of ZBrush guys down in Texas, and we're at a conference I was speaking at, and they had a little art area where they had their booths set up and they could actually sell their artwork. And these guys would also go to like Monsterpalooza and all these other events and be able to sell their artwork there too. So you'd go there and be able to buy a model for like $100 or whatever they want to charge for it. And it's 3D printed. So again, you're paying for the materials, which were relatively cheap. It's like $15 a pound, something like that. I forget the specifics. You can make a lot for a very low amount of cost. It's just more the time it takes to print it. But once you've done that, if you want to color it in or not, you're able to sell these and make a lot of money from it. So I definitely think there's a lot of potential there for 3D printing as well. And the fact that you could just sell these everywhere and anywhere. And they're different topics. The world's your oyster. I have I think my wife paid $1,600 for this giant Godzilla. And obviously it's not 3D printed, but like it's freaking awesome. It's this giant thing that I got on my desk, which I love. Going through the last couple HDRI packs. So again, if you wanted to do a lot of photography, you could go and create HDRI, so high dynamic range panoramic images that you're able to then sell online, and other people can use them for reflections, for environment maps, whatever it might be. So this is a really good chance where you can go out, all you need is a camera and a good kind of pan head, so whether an L bracket or a Nodal Ninja or an Atom pano head, or you could use a Ricoh Theta. There's plenty of different options out there to create these HDRIs. So this is a really good chance for you to do these and build them up as packs that then others can leverage as well. Again, selling these on Gumroad or on social media, on your website, there's plenty of different places you could sell these. Another one is matte painting assets. So rather than selling your matte paintings as prints or things like that, you can actually go and sell different photo elements that other matte painters can use in their own work. So going on Gumroad or selling on your website, there's so many different locations for this. One of my friends at Industrial Light and Magic in London, what she does is she actually travels the world and goes on vacation all the time, takes photos of everything and intentionally builds out packs wherever she goes, whether it's climbing some big mountain in Greenland or whether it is like going through New York, creates these massive texture packs as well as matte painting asset packs that she sells on her website. And as I mentioned before, texture packs is another one, building out seamless textures of different surfaces and things like that. So the world is your oyster. One final one I'll bring up is Patreon, which is slightly different, but if you've been building a personal brand, in other words, you build a following, if you build an audience, this is a chance for you to leverage that. This is a chance for you to have people who believe in the work that you're doing and want to invest in you be able to contribute $15, $100, $5, $1 a month, whatever it might be that you decide to set up. So that way they're helping finance you being able to be creative and do what you do, and they get to have closer access to you and better watch or contribute in some way along the way. So Patreon, I think, is the future in a lot of ways for a lot of us. I think it's definitely something that you could benefit from. As we move forward, what I want to do is I want to start to get laser focused in on these subjects. So if you say, hey, Alan, I want to know how the heck do I build a 3D printing business, then that's something that I'll be happy to go purchase a 3D printer, go set up an online store, document the entire process and start to block this stuff out so I can showcase step by step how to do that. This to me is something that I'm really excited about and I want to start doing as some of these videos. I want to talk about the concept to start this conversation, but then you tell me what you want to know or what you want to lean into. And this is a chance for me then to be able to take it to the next level and start to actually go hands-on and showcase to you exactly what to do. step by step over my shoulder as I go through it myself. Finally, a couple other things I want to quickly mention is art books. Once you've been selling your prints and everything else, you can create a book of all these and sell that as well. And they tend to work really well. And a lot of my friends who speak at conferences, places like that, they'll set up a table outside of the event. And when you walk outside, then you can buy the book and you can sell it for $50, autograph it, do the whole thing. So this is pretty common. A lot of my friends are doing it these days. And it's a good exposure as well because you get to say, hey, I've got a bunch of books out of my artwork. Typically, that's a good resume to have. If someone has printed books of their work, clearly they're pretty good at what they do. On top of that, you can sell that on Amazon. You can do it directly from you. You can build book funnels. You can do a lot. So books are definitely one that you can lean into too. Finally, the last one I want to mention, and there are so many more I could get into, but the last one is stock footage. So I've got one of my friends, she accidentally became a travel blogger just by going and shooting lots of really cool footage wherever she went traveling. And because of that, she'd get back and she'd post all over her social media. She'd sell the assets on Getty or Film Supply or other websites like that and be able to start making good money from doing it. So she works in film as a full-time compositor, but she also is making equally the same amount of money doing what she does on the side just by traveling and bringing a camera with her as well. So not only can this cover the trips, but it sometimes can be your media pass or your media badge to allow you to get into resorts or get special treatment, not as an influencer, but actually someone who is a dedicated official travel blogger. So you can actually showcase ahead of time, like you contact them and say, hey, I have this website, here's all the stuff that we do, I'd love to do a whole thing on your resort, or I'd love to film your resort and give you guys the footage. There's so many different things you can do and pitch it that way as well. So even going there and shooting a bunch of video and saying, if you're interested, I'll sell this to you high res for X amount of money, or just comp my hotel room. This is all the footage I shot around the resort over the last couple of days. There's so many different things you can do, but just keep that in mind that as long as you have a camera, then you've got access to a lot of different things you could do to make some extra money on the side. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is more just to whet your beak and get you interested, but also for you to start the conversation with me about what ones you want to see first. In other words, what side hustles do you have? And on top of that, what are the ones you want to see first? How in depth do you want to go? What are your burning questions? I want to know all this because as you start to mention in the comments the ones you want to see, if others go through and like the ones that others are saying, that's going to help indicate to me which are the ones that you find the most important. And what I want to start focusing on is showing you how to build out these businesses. It doesn't need to be hands-on. It doesn't need to be scary. This can literally be something that you do in a night, and then you just can occasionally upload different elements, different assets, and continue to sell them online. You can automate the entire thing. And I'd be happy to show all this because this is something that I do a lot of, and I think it's also a lot of fun to get into this side of things as well. Finally, make sure to follow my account so that way you get updates on future videos all to do with the subject as I lean into this further. And if you can like this and share it with others, that would mean the world to me. And like I said, leave a comment, let me know what subjects you want to see, what questions you have, and which ones I should tackle first. Thanks for watching, I appreciate you, and I'll be back next video. Rock on.